So imagine this. Baltimore is staring down, what, an $85 million deficit?
Mm.
The city's roads are literally crumbling.
Total mess. People are wrecking their cars.
Exactly. And while all of that is happening, the mayor is cruising around in a taxpayer-funded SUV that costs more than a starter home.
It's a staggering figure. And the thing is, when people started asking for, the receipts, things got ugly fast.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening up the books on Baltimore City Hall, and we're looking specifically at Mayor Brandon Scott's spending.
Yeah, and we have a lot to go on here. We're pulling from the Inspector General's investigative reports, local news from Fox Baltimore.
And some pretty heated commentary from places like Town Hall and just, residents on the street.
And this story, it's really the perfect storm, isn't it? You've got a fiscal crisis, public safety concerns, and this really flashy display of wealth from a public servant.
It is. Our mission today is to unpack how this one vehicle purchase, this single super luxury SUV, actually pulled back the curtain on a much bigger web of rising security costs, overtime abuse, and a political fight where simply asking how much gets you labeled a racist.
It's a real case study in accountability versus ego. I mean, this isn't just about a car. It's about how elected officials see public money versus their own personal comfort.
Okay, so let's just get right into the sticker shock. The number is frankly hard to believe. So the total cost to taxpayers for Mayor Scott's new Jeep Grand Wagoneer.
It's $163,495.
Around 163 grand.
Yeah. And just to put that in perspective for you, the median household income in Baltimore is around $58,000. So this car costs almost 3 times what the average family there makes in an entire year.
And I was looking at the actual invoice breakdown. The base price of the car itself was already about $99,000.
Right, so that's already the top of the line luxury model. This isn't your standard government fleet vehicle we're talking about.
No, not a Ford Explorer with cloth seats.
Not at all. But, the base price isn't even the whole story. They then added nearly $65,000 in so-called security upgrades.
65 grand? In aftermarket parts? What does that even get you? Like James Bond ejector seats or something?
Nothing quite that exciting. It's mostly lights, sirens, self-comms gear, and some vaguely described protective features.
But this is where the logic starts to fall apart for me.
Okay.
You might think, okay, he's the mayor of a major city with a high crime rate. Maybe he needs a tank.
Yeah, I thought that too. I mean, playing devil's advocate here, safety is a huge deal. If you're a target, you need protection. But then I saw the comparison data you pulled, and that whole argument it evaporates.
It really does. Because we have a perfect comparison right there in Maryland.
Yeah.
We looked at the vehicle for Governor Wes Moore.
The governor, the guy who runs the entire state. You'd assume he has a higher profile, higher threat level. Exactly. Yeah. So Governor Moore rides in a 2025 Chevy Suburban. A nice car, very capable. The total cost, fully outfitted for him, $82,141.
Whoa, that's basically half.
It's almost exactly half. Mayor Scott's ride costs nearly double what the governor's costs. And here's the kicker, the upgrades. The governor's security details spent about $10,000 on upfitting his Suburban.
10,000.
10. Mayor Scott's team spent $65,000.
How do you even justify that? Spending 6 times more on lights and sirens than the actual governor of the state.
You can't. And it's not just the governor. I mean, look at the county executives in the surrounding areas. Baltimore County and Arundel, they're all in cars in the $50,000 to $70,000 range.
Right.
Even the Baltimore Police Commissioner, the person actually in charge of fighting crime, drives a Tahoe that was $55,000 cheaper than the mayor's Jeep.
So the mayor has by far the most expensive government ride in the entire state of Maryland.
Okay, so when this story broke, people obviously had questions. How did City Hall respond? Poorly, to put it mildly. At first, the mayor's spokesperson tried the bureaucratic defense. They said, oh, it's technically a police vehicle because it's used by the Executive Protection Unit, the EPU.
Right.
And they said they were just following standard procedure to replace an old 2016 model.
Okay, but standard procedure doesn't usually mean buying the most luxurious model available and then spending more on it than the governor.
Exactly. And when that didn't work, Mayor Scott himself pivoted to what I'd call the imperial defense. Wow. He actually told reporters they'd never asked the President of the United States how much the beast costs.
The beast. He's comparing his Jeep to the presidential limo.
Yes. Cadillac one.
Yeah.
He made a direct comparison between his needs as a city mayor and the president of the United States.
That's an incredible reach. The president travels with the nuclear codes. The mayor of Baltimore deals with, potholes and trash collection.
It's absurd, but it tells you something about the mindset, right?
Yeah.
That he sees his office not just as a local job, but as something that warrants presidential-level perks.
And the deflection, it didn't stop there. I saw that really tense exchange with Tessa Bentulan, the investigative reporter.
Oh, yeah, from Fox Baltimore. She kept pressing him on the cost. She asked the question every taxpayer was thinking, why does this cost so much? And instead of answering, he attacked her.
He called the question idiotic, right? I saw that clip.
Idiotic. And then he went for the nuclear option. He accused her and her station of having a racist slant and being part of a severe right-wing effort.
Wow. So asking about a line item in the city budget is racist now.
That was his argument. He tried to frame it as scrutiny that was only happening because of who he is. But there's a huge glaring hole in that logic, which conservative outlets like Town Hall jumped on immediately.
Let me guess, Governor Wes Moore.
Exactly. Governor Wes Moore is also a black man. He holds a higher office, drives a cheaper car, and nobody is saying a word about his vehicle choice.
Because he didn't spend $163,000 of public money on it. It's that simple.
Right. The criticism is about the math, not the man. State Delegate Kathy Seelig put it very bluntly. She said, quote, Mayor Scott could not defend using tax dollars, so he called the reporter a racist. It's a classic deflection.
It just shuts down the conversation. But we have to look past that because, as you found in the sources, this SUV is really just the shiny tip of a very expensive iceberg.
Oh, absolutely. The car is what got everyone's attention, but the real financial drain was uncovered in a report by the Inspector General, Isabel Mercedes Cumming.
And for anyone who doesn't know, what exactly does the Inspector General do?
The IG is basically the city's internal budget detective. Her job is to find waste, fraud, and abuse. She doesn't have a political agenda, she just follows the money.
So what did she find when she followed the money on the mayor's security detail?
She found the costs were just ballooning. Last year, the total cost to protect just 3 officials, the mayor, the state's attorney, and the police commissioner, jumped to somewhere between $3.4 and $3.6 million.
$3.5 million. For 3 people, that sounds incredibly high.
It is. The direct costs for the Executive Protection Unit, the bodyguards, went up 68% in just 2 years.
68%? Where is all that money going? It can't all be salary increases.
It's not. It's overtime. This is a classic move in government budgeting. You keep the base salaries looking okay, but you just burn cash on overtime. The mayor's detail alone logged over 2,200 hours of overtime in one fiscal year.
2,000 hours of OT, that's more than a full-time job for one person.
It's basically a ghost employee paid entirely at time and a half. But speaking of ghosts, the most shocking thing in that IG report was something called residential protection.
Residential protection, what does that mean?
It means taxpayers are spending between $400,000 and $600,000 a year for a police car to sit outside the mayor's house.
Okay, again, devil's advocate, he's the mayor. Maybe there are credible threats against him at home.
Well, here's the catch. The patrol car sits there 247, even when the mayor isn't home.
Wait, what?
They are guarding an empty house.
So if he's at City Hall, or he's traveling, or he's just out driving around in his super expensive Jeep, there's still cops sitting in his driveway.
Yep, around the clock. And this isn't just about the money, which is bad enough. It's about the manpower. To staff one post 24 hours a day, you need 5 separate police officers working in shifts.
5 officers, and Baltimore is desperately short on police officers, right?
Desperately. You have neighborhoods begging for more patrols, lagging 911 response times, and yet 5 trained, uniformed officers are pulled off the street to watch an empty house.
That is just the definition of misallocated resources. Those are 5 cops who aren't responding to calls or deterring crime because they're acting as a private security detail for real estate. Who proved this? Who authorized a $500,000 house-sitting service?
And that is the most alarming part of the IG's entire report.
What's that?
There's no paper trail. The report found there are no standard operating procedures, no SOPs for this unit. There are no official threat assessments on file.
Hold on. So normally, if you're going to spend this kind of money on security, you have to justify it, right? You have to show there's a credible threat.
In any system with proper oversight, yes. You assess the risk. You allocate resources to match that risk. But here, there was nothing on file to justify why the mayor needs 16 bodyguards or a 247 watch on his house. They just did it.
It's like they treated the police budget like a personal slush fund.
It sure looks that way.
Yeah.
The IG actually compared these costs to other similar cities like Detroit, Memphis, Oakland, all places with serious crime problems.
Right, tough cities.
And Baltimore pays, and I'm quoting the report, considerably more for executive protection than any of them.
So we have no process, no documentation, and costs that are way out of line with peer cities. What did the Inspector General recommend?
Her big recommendation was about transparency. She said these costs need to be moved out of the massive police department budget and put directly into the mayor's office budget.
Ah, so you'd actually see it.
Exactly. Right now it's hidden.
Mm-hmm.
But if you move it, that line item for security suddenly sticks out like a sore thumb. Taxpayers would see very clearly how much the office of the mayor is spending to protect one person. It forces accountability.
Which brings us right back to that theme of accountability versus ego.
Yeah.
And there's another layer of hypocrisy here that seems to have really gotten under people's skin.
Yeah. Mayor Scott has a very specific public image he promotes. He's a big advocate for climate change action, always talking about green energy.
And yet he's being chauffeured in a Jeep Grand Wagoneer.
That gets a whopping 14 miles per gallon.
14 for a 2025 vehicle. That's terrible.
It's abysmal. And
Right.
critics are calling it a classic case of rules for thee, but not for me. You can't lecture people about taking the bus while you're riding around in a gas guzzler that big.
It also clashes with his whole man of the people brand from his campaign, doesn't it? I remember him running on cleaning up City Hall.
You remember correctly. Back in 2020, he ran against what he called corrupt and inept leaders. He specifically went after previous administrations for prioritizing flashy transportation.
He actually used that phrase, flashy transportation.
Those were his exact words. He said they cared more about the perks of office than the actual work. And now, here we are, and he's driving the most expensive government car in the state while his city faces that $85 million deficit.
And that deficit is the key context for everything. If the city were rolling in cash, maybe people would just roll their eyes. But when services might get cut.
It feels like a slap in the face. We saw interviews with residents from Federal Hill, and the frustration is real. One person, when told the cost of the Jeep, just said, "Not with our money."
Simple, but it says it all.
Another person made the point that they're dodging potholes that destroy their cars, which they have to pay to fix, while the mayor's just floating over those same potholes in a luxury suspension system that they paid for.
It just creates this image of a leader who's completely disconnected from the daily reality of the people he's supposed to be serving.
Absolutely. The trust just evaporates.
So let's just recap here. We have a mayor spending $163,000 on a single car. We have a security detail that's costing millions, guarding empty houses with no documented threat assessment to back it up.
And we have an official response that consists of attacking the press instead of just explaining the numbers.
Yeah.
All against the backdrop of a city in a deep financial hole.
It's a perfect example of why you need oversight. Without the Inspector General and without reporters asking those so-called idiotic questions, nobody would know 5 police officers are sitting in a driveway instead of patrolling a neighborhood.
It really makes you ask, is this public service or is this self-service?
That's the question. And I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. The mayor's whole defense is built on the idea of safety, that he needs all of this to be safe. But think about this. If a mayor needs a security detail that's more expensive than the governor's, and a car that costs more than a house, just to feel safe in his own city, what does that say about the job he's doing keeping the rest of the city safe?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? If the person in charge isn't safe without a small army, how can the average citizen ever expect to be?
It's a sobering thought. We'll keep an eye on this as the budget hearings go on. Thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive.
Stay curious and always check the receipts.
We'll see you next time.